Hi all, it's Dominic Weber again, one of the founders of Quit Smoking 24/7. And this session 5, I want to talk about triggers. So we've established that smoking is a habit, and if you want to kick this habit, it's not about not doing stuff. It's about starting new habits. And we've already talked about a couple of these for you. That is to say, whipping all your cigarettes and whipping all the time, and then using that 15 seconds. These are new habits. The more you do them, the better your brain is going to get at them, and the better you're going to get, just like exercise of the body or anything else. So let's talk about building a third habit. And this third habit is what we call triggers, or tracking your triggers. A trigger is anything, any circumstance or thing that happens to you that basically results in you having a thought, which ultimately results in you wanting a cigarette. It's that simple. So you need to track your triggers. You need to write them down in your phone or wherever. It doesn't matter, but it's really important you track your triggers and track every single one of them. So here's how this works. The reason it's so important that we track this stuff is because your brain works very, very quickly. The fastest supercomputers in the world can't even calculate walking across a street, which a child can perform. So when we have our triggers that happen on our brain, these set off thoughts, and we ultimately think, hey, I need a cigarette. But what you need to track this for is because there's a slew of triggers before this one. What triggered you to start the argument? What triggered that? What triggered before that? And so on until you can get to the real root cause of these triggers. The real important thing about this is what we're doing is we're moving our memories from what's called procedural memory into the declarative memory network. And an easy way to think of this is procedural memory is like muscle memory or images or shapes, things that can't be put into words explicitly or declaratively, as they say, whereas explicit or declarative memories are exactly that, things that you can state very clearly what they are. The real important thing to understand here is that by moving stuff from procedural into declarative, right? Procedural, declarative. You're actually moving stuff into the prefrontal cortex, and this is huge because the prefrontal cortex is what is in charge of cravings and desire and things like that, and can actually help us control our urges to smoke. I'd like to close out with an example of how this works. So a few weeks ago, I was just washing dishes, and I was thinking how grateful I was for my wife and how much she does everything for me. And it was a great feeling, and immediately following it, for no apparent reason, I just felt guilty. I felt guilty and I felt bad. And I said to myself, how can I go from being appreciative for everything that my wife does for me to automatically feeling guilty? And I was like, what caused this feeling of guilt? And so I had to ask myself, why was I guilty? And I came up with, well, I don't feel, I'm doing enough. I need to pull more weight for her. I need to do more things for her. And I said, why do I need that? And it kept going back and back and back till I ultimately discovered, this has to do with childhood experiences of my parents often always only doing things for us if we were agreeing to pay them back. Everything they ever did for us, giving us allowance, doing anything for us, our laundry, making our lunch, was always under the pretext of, you got to do something back for me because now you owe me. So while they didn't intend probably for this to happen, they created this thought in my head of that I am responsible and I owe every single person that does everything for me. So it eventually turned into this feelings of guilt when I didn't feel that I had done enough. So there's an example of me using the tracking my triggers all the way back to this explicit, memory, or this procedural memory that I had. I didn't really have any words for it. I just had visions. And then I, vocalized it, and that's what I got. So this is a new habit you need to build. You need to build the habit of tracking your triggers. Track every single one, keep tracking them, and you are literally making changes in your brain by doing this. We'll talk later. Bye.